What would push you to move to a new, untamed land? Adventure, opportunity, freedom would motivate me. How about you? The first colonies in North America were started mainly with one agenda: to claim land and get rich. This was at the expense of the natives, who, after all, lived here in America. There is one exception to these colonies: Plymouth. It was settled for freedom, religious freedom, and to make decisions for their own families. Lots of countries were planting their flags and claiming land in the Americas in the 1600s. I'm going to show you a map of what it looked like. These were the 1650s. This is where people had settled already and had colonies well established in America. The green up here is England. That's mostly Canada right now. And England had some down through here. Oh, I'm sorry, that's French up here. That's right. It's the French were the green up here. And then they were also in over this way up the Mississippi, from Louisiana up the Mississippi River is where they claimed territory, down here and up there in the Quebec area. England is the yellow area. They had colonies all along the east coast here. The purple is the Dutch, and that was New Amsterdam, which was later called New York. Then there was New Netherlands by the Dutch here, New Amsterdam and New Netherlands, all the way up through here. Then there was the Swedish, the New Swedish, down this way. And then there was the Spanish down here in Florida, and they kept trying to come up the coast, but they couldn't keep their land for very long coming up this way. Okay, that's where all these countries were definitely planting a flag. Um, Spain also planted flags over off of um, the oh the Gulf of Mexico area, and up into New Mexico and Texas area as well. Um, these these colonies were starting to grow like crazy, and a lot of people were coming over to them. England started a colony early in the 1590s, and it was called Roanoke Island, and it had been founded by Sir Walter Raleigh, and he had financed 117 settlers to come there and claim this land, and then they were to pay him tributes from what some like a form of taxes to him to pay him back for him settling them there. He went back 2 years later to collect his money, his taxes from them, and the 117 settlers had vanished. They had left this island of Roanoke, and they left a post with one word as a clue. This was their clue that they left, carved into a post. It is still an unsolved mystery. Nobody knows what happened to them. Look into it if you can and see if you can figure out what happened. The English sent soldiers and settlers in 1607 to Jamestown, and Jamestown is down here with this yellow. You can see it. And Jamestown was definitely English. They also sent settlers in 1620 to Plymouth, Massachusetts. Spain really fought to claim territory and keep it. They kidnapped American natives and sold them in Spain for profit. An early French colony called Fort Caroline started in 1564, and in 1 year later, they were all killed by the Spanish except for two men who escaped and lived with the Indians for a while. And 20 years later, they published a booklet talking about their encounters with the natives. A quote from that booklet says, we very soon realized that the last thing on their minds was to harm us. They gave us numerous proofs of their friendly intentions, food, medicine, and then when they found out that we were interested in metals, they gave us those too. The French and the English colonies soon found the natives to be friendly and helpful. Colonial life was different than European life. They had to learn a lot about being dependent on each other. When I was a young girl, I had to learn that as well. I stood on his boots and danced at the Christmas social with Uncle Lester, and I twirled and swayed to the music and loved it. Dad and Mother danced and looked so graceful together. I danced with a few friends and cousins, but the last dance was definitely the best with Uncle Lester. Back then in our small town, everyone came, everyone danced, young and old. We depended on each other to come in if there was a fire, if someone was sick or injured, if the crops needed to be baled before rain, or if a widow needed a garden put in. We were interdependent, not dependent. Our small town realized we are all in this life together, and to help each other made life better. This realization gave you an appreciation and value of others. As a child, I remember a terrible fire that threatened our town. Lightning had hit sagebrush north of town. A couple of men tried to stop it before it reached their fields, but the more they tried, the more they realized they couldn't handle it. So they bit back their pride and they phoned for help. The men in the town all went to help, and the women were helping too. They went to the farmhouses near the fire and helped pack up valuables and house the women and children in their homes. The smoke was awful. I rode with my mother near the fire line to take boxes of sandwiches and fruit and water to the men. I'll never forget the black, sooty faces with sweat streaks. The town was saved. Women complained to each other about washing smoke stained walls and clothes for a while. The men all helped the families who lost their crops, and within a few weeks, all was back to normal. But if the two farmers who originally saw the fire starting, if they had remained independent and prideful and not calling for help, we might have lost our town. This concept works with a family too. Our family went on a picnic in the mountains. My family was content to sit on blankets, play games, and read. I thought I didn't need my boring family. I could entertain myself, so I went on a hike. I was having a great time until something big and dark and brown startled me. I started to run back down the hillside. My mind was racing. Was it a bear? Was it a mountain lion? I was scared. Finally, I realized my legs and arms hurt, and I stopped and looked back. 100 yards away from me stood a deer. A deer. Are you kidding me? A deer. I really was losing my ability to discover what was really a problem. Um, and then I looked down and found out I had worse problems. I hurt. I looked around me and realized I was in a patch of stinging nettle, and I had to walk through it to get out of it to get back to my family. I now needed them. Mother put cool mud on my welts, and my brother got a towel wet and put it on my face where I had been rubbing my eyes. My sister picked up the picnic, and Dad loaded the car. We came home to find our neighbors. A Lutheran minister was having a church barbecue in his backyard right next to our garage. I could have died. I was so embarrassed to get out of the car. Our neighbor introduced Dad as the Mormon next door, and by this time my face was swollen and my eyes were slits. I had mud and red welts all over me. One look at me, and those people would have hid from monstrous Mormons forever. My brother got a blanket and held it up for me so nobody could see me, and my sister held my hand and guided me to the house. Mother gave me Benadryl and put calamine pink dots all over my welts. Dad gave me a blessing, and somehow my boring family became my heroes. My independence and my spark of pride had melded into a grateful interdependency with my family. Life is more fun and productive when others are included and valued and appreciated. And that's how I learned about interdependency. And these pilgrims definitely needed to learn that. Um, they lived in colonies that um, were one of two kinds of colonies. We're going to talk about British colonies. And the one type of colony was a proprietary colony. And this is what, let me take down that map and then you can see this better. Where are we? There we go. There, now you can see it better. A proprietary map grants individuals to be landlords over their property, authority to appoint governors and make laws for themselves, business ventures or as a religious haven, and almost independent sovereigns, but still under English law. Many of these colonies eventually became royal colonies due to England's tighter controls over proprietary colonies. They were mainly started by rich Englishmen who wanted people to live there and work for them. The other type of colony was called a royal colony. So the British had this kind too. They recognized the authority of the King of England, and they had no effective civil government, so they had to establish their own. They were all equal. They had civil responsibility to pay their taxes and be loyal citizens, and they all agreed to establish laws and government so that they could be a good law-abiding people. Those were the two types of colonies. Now, Jamestown was a preparatory colony owned by the Virginia Company of London. The king gave them permission to live in English land and subject to English law. Sir Walter Raleigh, he was the one who financed the Roanoke adventure, where all the people disappeared. He approached some wealthy men and talked them into buying into this venture to try another colony. They wanted the freedom of free enterprise that they could get in America that they couldn't in England. They talked the king into sending soldiers to protect the colony and keep the land claimed for England. These men offered people to come settle, start a new life, and make money. They didn't have a hard time convincing settlers to come and enjoy their newfound freedom. They looked at the natives as being below them, thus their relationship with the natives was poor, until this person came along. And there she is, Pocahontas. She was a real person. Her name means playful one. Her father was the head chief over the Indian nation in that part of the United States. She was truly a princess. The Indians were organized in several tribes and many villages, and they united into one nation. Pocahontas was Indian royalty. She would go close to the fort and observe the white men and their families, and found them very amusing. She came to a settlement and brought them food when they were having a famine. And when they were sick, she brought them medicine. And a time when the fort's leader, John Smith, was captured and tried before her father, she pleaded for his life. Pocahontas saved the colony by her kindness. She helped bridge the gap between the Native American and English culture. She married an English captain and had a son. She lived and died in England. She died at age 20, so she did a lot before when she was still really young. There are pictures of her in high society clothes in England. The British were quite taken by her and treated her well. As an individual, she made a big difference in her world. She put many at ease about the Indians and encouraged people to come to America, the land of opportunity. This colony was started by John Smith as their harsh military leader. He was the only leader. He took control of defenses and forced settlers to work. He took care of all the internal and external threats. He was strict and unpopular. This was how proprietary colonies were run. King James I governed the colony with the leader that he chose, and he chose John Smith. To maintain law and order, the people were governed under strict martial law. The leader enforced dictatorial powers and forced work and discipline. In 1619, things changed. They wanted things different there, and people were unhappy, and there was a revolt. So they worked out an arrangement where they could have a representative government involving allowing people to pass their own laws. This included electing their own governor, his counselors, and elected people that would help them in their settlement and that were from surrounding settlements as well. Jamestown changed to a royal colony at this point. The colony's change from military rule to representative system was crucial in the foundation of self-government in American history. Now, another colony was the Plymouth colony. It was a royal colony, and it was owned by King James, and they lived by these rules. Going to take down Pocahontas. And here is a picture of the Pilgrims landing at Plymouth. Well, I can see it. Let's make it so you can see it too. There you go. Okay. The Mayflower voyage took 66 days. There was about 150 on board. There were no bathrooms. They had animals to live with them too. When the Lord had Noah build the ark, at least it had 3 levels to keep some of the smell in the lower deck. I can't even imagine how bad it smelled. 66 days of this is little over 2 months. My kids complained after 2 hours going on a trip. It had to have been tough. Although with a lot of faith, you can endure and keep focused on the light at the end of the tunnel, and you can make it work. Freedom was a big motivator for them. The colony landed in October, so the Mayflower captain said he would stay in the port and let them live on the ship until they got houses built. The winter was rough and supplies were limited. While on the ship, a religious group leader for them, was William Brewster. He was the most educated man of the group, having attended Cambridge College in England. William Bradford was the key group leader and served as the governor for 30 years in Plymouth. These are the people that we talked about last time that had left England, and because of religious persecution, they wouldn't go to the Church of England, and they went and lived with the Dutch, and then they left them and boarded the Mayflower, and this is them coming here. Since there was no significant civil law, no laws at all in place, the people faced the problem of how to establish law. They knew they had to have some kind of law and order. Since they were all equal, how could they put their trust in any one of them to be above another? Their solution was a social contract where they all agreed to establish laws and a government, and they all consented to obey by it. 41 men, there were women present too, but 41 men, since only men could sign, went into the cabin of the Mayflower and signed one of the most remarkable documents in all of history. I think I have a picture of that as well. There we go. It was called the Mayflower Compact. Um, they This allowed men to vote on laws, policies, and town meetings. Every individual was valued and represented by a man because only men could sign documents at that time. When it came time for the Mayflower to return to England, the captain offered to take back any and all who wanted to go with him, and no one went. They nearly starved to death. 50% of them died that first winter. They never would have made it through the next year, except they had an Indian to help them too. And this Indian was Squanto. He was a remarkable man. He had been taken by soldiers and put on their ship and taken back to Spain and sold as a slave. He learned to speak Spanish, and he worked on the docks in Spain. Then he was given to the custody of a Catholic priest, and some Englishmen bought him and brought him to the busy streets of London, where he learned to speak English. After 5 years, he found a ship to work on that was headed to America and landed in the Caroline area. He found his way home up the coast where his village had been 5 years earlier, but it was gone. Every one of them. They had gotten something like smallpox and they had all died. He was there when the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth. The white man had taken his freedom for 5 years and removed him from his home. And what did he do? He helped the Plymouth colony. Squanto knew their language, and he could help them communicate for treaties with the Indians. He taught them how to fish large fish, how to hunt, how to plant gardens, and where to find edible plants and medicinal plants. He saved them. The Pilgrims described him as a special instrument sent from God for their good. Once again, one man can make a difference. It is a miracle he found his way home. When many soldiers came home from war, they kneeled down and kissed the ground of their homeland, the land of the free. I know my husband did when he came home from Vietnam. Freedom to come and go, to own, to choose a profession, to talk about your feelings and how the laws affect you, to read what you want. You have these because these men in our past and many others in the world don't have this. Almost 25% of the population in England came to America. By the 1700s, Germans and Irish and Scottish were all coming here. There were no electronic devices to entertain them or to get caught up on events. These people ate around a dinner table and discussed concerns of the English government controlling their life. It spurred on the Boston Tea Party. It led to debates on starting a new country, a new government. Most of the colonists wanted more freedom than the taxation without representation they had. Our founding fathers grew up listening to these debates by their grandfathers and their fathers. These men gave up everything to move here. They literally broke the land up for their farms and built their own homes. They had a lot invested in this land, and so far they were seeing England coming in and making it even worse than living conditions than what they'd left in their homeland. There were, however, true blue Englishmen, mostly wealthy landowners, and the British soldiers that remained loyal to England. Therefore, the debates over the future of America became heated. I once had an experience when I saw two men when I saw some men debate problem solving, and it could have ended poorly for me. What does a 14-year-old girl give her dad for Father's Day? No job, no money, and an overactive imagination were the motivating factors in this decision. At first, I thought I would paint him a picture with my oil paints, but one day wasn't enough time. Then I thought of a coupon book, but I wasn't sure I wanted to be that indebted to him that long. I settled for the idea of washing the car and cleaning it, detailing it inside and out. I approached Mother and asked permission to move Dad's car out of the small one-car garage so I could do this job. She thought it was a terrific idea and gave me the keys. I'd never driven before, except when I was 3 and stood on the front seat and pulled the car out of park and it went into neutral. And my dad was standing on my grandma's doorstep giving her some eggs when he caught a reflection of me in the glass on the door, driving his car down the hill. He ran fast in those days and was stopped before I could do much damage, even though my time behind the steering wheel had been very limited. I had been a passenger for a long time. I mean, after all, how hard could it be? With a 14-year-old I can do anything attitude, I took a deep breath and turned the key. I moved the gear to R, got reverse, and started to back up. Oop, too fast, I thought, and I slammed on the brakes. A little nervous, a little less confident, but slowly removed my foot from the brake. The garage door opening was so narrow that you only had 6-inch clearance on either side. As I looked back, I was sure I was too close to the passenger side, so I turned the steering wheel. Suddenly, the car was reversing at an angle and then almost ripped off the side mirror. I pulled the car back into drive, pulled it forward, and then attempted to back out again. Time after time, I tried until I got a 22-point turn and got the car in the garage sideways. I was stuck. 30 minutes after I'd been handed the keys and a half a tank of gas later, I got out of the car, slammed the door, and walked in the house to my mother. She came out to help. She saw the position of the car and stopped dead in her tracks. She didn't have a clue how to move it. We both became concerned how my dad would take this when he got out of his church meeting. This car was his pride and joy and our only car. A list of viewers grew as 3 neighbors, my uncle, and my brother all discussed theories of how to release the car from its prison. As this mob was in the backyard scratching their heads, my dad came home. Dad came curiously to this group to see what was happening. The dilemma was explained to him, and he peeked at the car. I was nervous. All eyes were on him. I braced myself for a tongue lashing. Suddenly, he started to laugh. One by one, everyone else did too. It diffused the tension, and I felt relief. Dad's response was he had 2 options. I was grateful he chose a positive attitude. Of course, I wasn't allowed to sit behind the steering wheel until I was age 16, but after my car wedgie experience, that was okay with me. But families do this. This is common for families and friends to debate problems. Back in colonial days, they didn't debate how to unstick a car out of a garage, but the need for solutions and keeping a positive approach were still important then too. This time frame was full of people who wanted freedom so badly that they started thinking like free men, allowing everyone to have a voice. We are fast approaching the Founding Fathers' organizing documents of freedom fighting in our next podcast. And I would really like you to read the Mayflower Compact if at all possible. It's amazingly short. And here's something for you to look up. This woman, and find out who she was during this time frame. She was part of this story. Okay, may God be with you till we meet again.